There's a story in every bottle.
Hey, right in front of the mic.
Right.
Cheers!
Ringing in the holidays. Oh, it's middle of the summer.
It's
July
not a
1st.
holiday, no.
4th of July. Ringing in the 4th of July.
Ringing in, there you go. Welcome everybody
Jingle bells.
to another episode of The Hermit's Proudly Contrarian Monday Night Live. We're here to talk about some new wines, but before we get into that, a couple things I want to share. First of all, if you're new to us today, if you're joining us for the first time, we'd love it if you'd subscribe to our Facebook and YouTube channels. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel right below Ken, and the Facebook channel has a little bell on it. Click that bell and you'll subscribe. If you subscribe, you'll be notified every time we go live, which is often on most Monday nights at 5:30. And occasionally from some wild part of the planet, out in the ocean or in the woods or on a ski area, who knows? So, so please subscribe, and you'll learn all about the things that are going on here at the winery. We also do live music shows. Every time we do a stage performance here at the Loft, we go live with our stage performances, and you'll get notice of those as well if you want to enjoy the music from home. And if you are here with us today, please make yourself known. Write your name in the comments. Say hello so we know you're here. And if you have any questions during the broadcast, feel free to ask them. We'll do our best to get to those questions while we're on air today. And if we don't get to them on air, we'll get to them when we get off. And lastly, if you like what you've heard today, or you enjoy this conversation and you think you know others who might enjoy it too, like the broadcast and share it with your friends and family and others who might appreciate the conversation. So thank you for all of that. And I'm also going to let you know that we have a live audience today.
Yes,
Cheers to our live audience, Christine and Mike. And
Cheers, Christine.
and please know that if
Bonnie Morrison.
oh, and Bonnie, Bonnie, sorry, and Bonnie,
And
is
Bonnie,
here,
yep,
so.
Bonnie's here.
And if you do want to join us, if you give us notice, if you want to come for one of our shows that are going to be had here in the Loft, give us notice. We're always happy to have live audiences. So
Yeah. You get to enjoy the wine directly.
yes, when you're in the live audience, you get
That's
to
right.
get to sample
That's right.
along with us.
I think they're like double live because they can log on to Facebook and they can be sitting here at the same time.
Well, this is good because then they can post their questions,
Right.
and it makes
But they could actually just,
raise
say,
their
"Hey,
hand. There you
Bob,
go. That's a good way to do it. Yeah. So cheers.
double live.
So here we're here to talk about some new releases. You have been on fire down in the cellar this year, and you and Ben both coming up with all kinds of interesting creations. And you got a new canning line, which has enabled you to do all kinds of new fun
We're
things.
canning again tomorrow.
And you're
there's, what, 5 different
Yes.
products right up
Let's
there.
start with that. Let's talk about the
Sure.
cans because we're not going to be drinking the cans today.
What?
We're not going to open
Not
them
right now,
today. Not right now.
I thought the rule was we had to drink everything on the table.
Oh, you know what? I forgot Dolgo.
Oh, my goodness, Ken. Well, while you're getting that, we'll talk about what we have in front of us here. So, as you all know, we had a canning had a canning program about 2 years ago. We used a mobile canning line, and that required us to can in volumes that were just not practical for the size of our business. And we learned that pretty rapidly over the course of the year or two after our canning. We lost some product because it aged out, and we had some challenges with some of the canning line issues. So we had to discontinue that, and we.
This was on purpose, Chuck. No.
It's a
Wait a minute.
pyramid.
Oh, is this a pyramid scheme?
There we go.
King.
Yeah, Dolgo. Oh my God, this is fantastic.
So we have
So
6 different canned products out right now, and we have a 7th coming
yeah,
out
and in the
tomorrow.
heyday of our early canning stages, we only had 4 products. That's all we could do given the volumes we had to deal with. But since then, about 6 months ago, we purchased our own canning line, which allows us to can on small volumes, and that's going to enable us to can a much broader
We already have a
spectrum.
whole bunch cooking.
I bet you do. I already know of, we have some session meads that you
Yep, that's
talked about.
That'll be coming out this fall. The sparkling strawberry will be out tomorrow.
Yep.
Sparkling strawberries?
Cirque
Yes.
du Strawberry in a
Cirque du
can.
Strawberry in a
Cirque du
can.
Strawberry in a
In a
can?
Yes.
Oh, that's dangerous.
Oh, you're not kidding.
Are you sure there are rules against that?
I don't know. I just make it. It's up to It's up to the person to.
That's
To
half
wield
a
the
bottle,
gun.
half a bottle of wine in a can.
Oh, that I know that always slows you down on the Dolgo.
Yeah, clearly
Well,
that,
I
that
know I'm
works out just
responsible
fine.
with Dolgo.
So keep this away from Chuck. Put that over here. That's the Dolgo. You all remember the Dolgo.
Yes.
Chuck's the world's
We
biggest fan. He named his
He named his
sailboat
sailboat.
after this can.
Yes, we
And
did.
then we had the next two products. I should flip this
Flip
around.
those around.
The next two products, believe it or not, both of these are Winnipesaukee Rosé.
Identical
And you
product.
might wonder, they don't look anything like the Winnipesaukee Rosé we know of in the bottle. Well, they don't. When we started canning rosé, we wanted to start with a fresh brand for it. So this was our initial Winnipesaukee Rosé, and it was created by Deb Lucky, who created our cider labels. And this was very popular, so we brought it back. But we also have started working with the MS Mount Washington, the boat that tours Lake Winnipesaukee, and they've been purchasing our wine to share with their guests on the boat. And we wondered if it wouldn't help if we had a product that was celebrating the MS Mount Washington. So we came up with a Winnipesaukee Rosé that is dedicated to the MS Mount Washington, and we have some historical pictures
Who
of a
designed that
former
fantastic
captain.
label, Bob?
That would be my second design of a label.
well done.
Yes. Well, I have some work to do, but we're getting there. I'm pretty happy with it. So,
Talks about his labels like I talk about my wine.
so those two, and then one of our newest products,
That's
which if you have
That's
any
almost
interest
sold out.
in,
That's
you better
almost
get
sold
here
out.
quickly
We're down to a few
because
cases
it's down
already.
to a few cases. I think I'm largely responsible, as Chuck is, for the diminishing quantities of Dolgo.
Yeah.
I have something to do with the diminishing quantities of the
Honey lavender
honey
cider.
lavender cider.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is so delicious. It's,
Yeah, there's fresh lavender grown by Barbara over just outside of Plymouth.
in Plymouth, New Hampshire, and
On
fresh
the side
honey
of the
from
hill,
and
and the honey is from Troy Hall.
Troy Hall.
In the River Valley.
the apples.
And the apples from Apple Hill Farm.
Apple Hill Farm.
Outside of
Doesn't get any more local than that. And you have your three friends here on the can. This was
Yeah,
my
it's when we were
first
climbing a
label
tree together.
design.
Yeah, I remember that day. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's at Apple Hill Farm.
Yeah, that's an Apple Hill Farm.
That's at Apple Hill Farm.
Yeah. And
So-
Ken was wearing that outrageous getup all day.
I was.
know,
It was
it's
kind of hot.
It was kind of hot. Yeah.
So honey lavender cider. That's available.
I don't think I've been
briefly.
allowed to have any of that. Have you been hoarding it, Bob?
He has been a bit.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit. It's really good.
All right. After
I'll
the
put
show,
that
you
over here,
distract
too.
him. I'm gonna
Are you
walk off.
distracted? Okay.
So the last two you're all very familiar with, our blueberry cider and our cranberry cider.
But the blueberry cider has never been in cans before.
It's never been in cans.
Right.
Nope.
Never been in cans before.
Right.
That's
And
right.
if all goes well, we got a new, so we have 6 different, well, actually 5, one's labeled differently. Tomorrow we'll have 6 different canned products, and then soon
the
after
fall,
that,
there'll be a 7th.
there'll be a 7th, and then we'll
Like
do
summer.
spring in session.
Next spring.
So we're gonna have 8 canned products by next spring.
Plus a couple more we're working on for next spring.
So
You hear
Ken,
that? You heard it here first.
Yes.
10 new canned products by.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah. So we're not going to be sampling through any of these today. It probably wouldn't make it through the show, but nonetheless.
Oh, we would, but the audience probably wouldn't.
So, yeah, no, we would be more ridiculous than normal. So the lavender.
I'm glad you said more
mead
ridiculous than
is what's the ABV on that?
The lavender.
The
7?
ciders are all around 7.
Are all ciders are
Yeah,
seven?
ciders are all
7%,
around 7.
yeah.
Yeah, and then the sparkling.
And the wines are all in the 12 to 13 range,
Yeah,
down
yeah,
here.
okay.
which is where you got to be careful because when you have a 12-ounce can, you're thinking a lower alcohol beer kind of product,
Right.
not half a
That's
bottle
like
of
your
wine.
quad IPA.
It's like a quad.
Yeah.
It's like drinking
Yeah.
a quad.
But it drinks like, I don't know. Deliciousness. Yeah.
Well,
It is
Dolgo
dangerous.
is a great example because it drinks like a cider. And
Yeah.
it looks
Yeah.
like a cider.
Yeah.
It's in a can like a cider.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're
And then it
inclined to drink
punches
it like
you.
a cider.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
And then
coconut,
you've
right?
had a half a bottle of wine in a matter of a few minutes.
Or a whole one if you drink two of them.
Or a whole one and drink two.
And yeah, and it's sparkling, so it gets into your bloodstream faster.
Has that
too.
ever resulted in any issues on the sailboat?
I don't
No,
know.
because
I don't
the
remember.
I don't remember any issues. We leaned over a lot.
What issues?
We got that needle to really crank to the optimal 21 or 23 degrees, or it's 18 degrees,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
No, I don't think it's relative to the scariest moments on that boat, to be honest.
No, no.
That's all the wind's fault when it gets to that.
Well, operator error comes in.
Really?
Yeah, comes to mind a few
I thought
times.
the
Yeah.
Dolgo was like pretty flawless.
Yeah, you could, if
Well,
you
that's
really
why we're
work
still
hard.
here.
I heard you can't tip it over, although you and Bonnie got pretty close at that
Yeah,
one
we
time.
took on water. Yeah, yeah. You can do the wrong thing. It did
Yeah.
not tip over. I also, granted
It did not tip over.
It did not
but
tip over.
everything got wet.
I lost my shoes.
Karen
I think that
wishes
You
our
like your
honey
shoes.
lavender came in a
walked
12
over.
pack.
In a 12 pack?
Yeah.
Just buy 3 of them. It's simple.
There you go. Simple solution, Karen. Just buy 3 of them.
You know, it's kind of fun from a little marketing thing. You know, all of our other 4-packs here have black snap packs on the top to hold the 4
Yeah.
cans together. The Cirque de Strawberry champagne that we came out with has a pink foil on the top. So Ben and Bob started talking about packaging, and we decided to get pink snap pack.
You got pink snapbacks or?
Yes.
We'll
You
be
guys
getting
think of
pink
everything.
snap packs on tomorrow.
You guys think of everything.
So Karen wants to know if we're gonna. You said we're gonna run out of the honey lavender mead.
Honey
cider.
lavender cider.
Are there plans to make
summer.
more
Next summer.
next summer? We have to wait till next summer.
Next summer. Sorry.
Well, there it is.
It's the way it
You
goes.
you better hurry up before Bob
Wake
drinks
up.
it all.
There are, there,
I'm
these
gonna bring a
things
few
are
more
these,
4
these
packs
things
home.
are-
I'm gonna bring a 12 pack home tonight. I
Yeah,
think.
these
hear
things
that?
are seasonal. And so we're going to kind of keep them seasonal. I'd like to come out with the spring in session, the rhubarb session mead. But the time rhubarb comes ripe, it's ripe, it's harvested right now and chopped up and frozen, and I could make the mead, but that would take a couple of months and put it in the can, and by then it'd be the fall.
That's wrong time.
You can't have spring session in the fall.
No.
So I've harvested and processed my rhubarb, and that's in the freezer. And Ben and I will make the session mead in the early spring, late winter, so that we can package it in April, May, so
there
that
you go.
while people are picking fresh rhubarb, they can pop open a session mead rhubarb
Can you have a lavender honey cider in the fall?
in the fall.
Just checking. Just wondering.
Fall in session. or
Apples or fall crop? I don't know.
something. Oh, there.
Well, you have that fall crop, and then it's
Then
gonna
honey?
ferment. It takes a couple months.
Lavender comes out in August.
Oh,
I'm just
well, there's
throwing
lots-
it out there. I don't know.
There's
I'm
just-
trying, Karen. I'm trying. All
Well,
right.
there's quite a few cases left, but just a few. So, they can be
Now,
purchased and
if anybody's interested
over time.
in guaranteeing them, you'll have to call and reserve because I have a feeling they're going to be gone in a week or two. If
Are any of these cans on Vino Shipper?
no, it's
All
really
in-house.
difficult to ship cans.
Yeah, we decided not to go that route.
Yeah, yeah. Good.
Yeah, because we're doing it in small enough
So
batches.
that means you
we
have
did
to, you have to
ship.
come here.
You have to
come
come here.
Come on here.
Well, there is some distribution of it. I don't
Oh,
know.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
Places have been snapping them up, so we're out in lots of different farm stands.
Is
and
honey lavender
supermarkets
mead
and-
out in the wild?
No, not that one. I asked Maya, not that one.
How come?
Because then we wouldn't have any. You would not have any. It would have been gone.
You better make
50
twice
weeks
as
ago.
much next year.
It's planned to be double batch next year. That is the plan.
So,
Hear that, Karen? Twice as much next year.
so the $64 question for me is: do you drink Cirque de Strawberry in the can, or do you put it in a glass?
That's up to you.
I think
Personal preference.
What do the professionals recommend though? I mean, is there
If
some
you're on your
guidance
boat-
I don't know. Do you know any professionals?
No.
I don't. I
So all
certainly
you
could.
professionals out there, let us know what the proper technique
Well,
is.
if you
for
were to analyze
consumption.
this based on the understanding that you have about drinking wine,
Yeah, how
what would
about
be
Dogo?
your suggestion?
How do you have?
A shotgun? So you just punch a hole in the
Punch a
bottom
hole
of the
in the
can?
bottom.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, that would
Collegiate
work.
approach, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, I think you started when you were in junior, in
I think-
grade school.
I think in vitro, there was shotguns going on.
I mean, honestly, the truth of the matter is that it will taste delicious in the can. I have no doubt. You
How
could
do you
drink
like
it.
Dogo?
Imagine so.
How do you like to
Oh,
drink
you
Dogo?
know, I for a long time I wouldn't drink it in the can, and then one day it just, it was too.
You didn't
too
have a
much-
glass
It was
and
too much
well.
work to pour it. I mean, all that effort finding a glass and pouring it in, and you know what? It was fine. It was fine. In fact, the only thing that I found I had a problem with in the can was the Petit Bleu, because you
Yes,
don't get
that
the
was
flavor.
better in a glass.
Yeah, it was
That was
just
better.
night and day difference. But all the sparkling stuff in the can, I mean, it gets into your taste buds and
The
all that.
CO2,
The
that
CO2
gas
Bubbles
yeah,
just
delivers
bring
it.
that up
yeah,
your
yeah,
nose
it's-
and
it's-
out, so
right.
you get all that.
Right, with the
retronasal.
still wine, it didn't do it.
Right.
Didn't do it. It tasted fine in a glass. You couldn't tell the difference between the canned version and the bottled version in a glass. They were all, it was the flavor and everything. The can didn't change
That,
anything.
the Petit Bleu, we've had a lot of people asking for the Petit Bleu in cans, and unfortunately, it's about $25,000 to get a nitrogen dosing apparatus to dose the can with nitrogen. Because when you have a still wine product, you don't want it to be carbonated, yet
Right.
you want the can to be rigid.
Right.
Because
Yeah, you got it.
aluminum cans are just flimsy little things, and it's the CO2 that holds them rigid. So for Petit Bleu, you have to dose it with nitrogen, and then put the seal on, and then the nitrogen.
It's a little,
Pops
it's
up.
like frozen thing or something, right? The doser.
It's liquid nitrogen.
Oh, it's liquid, but it's
So
super
nitrogen's
cold. whatever.
liquid at minus 30.
Yeah,
C.
yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
And so at room temp, it's a gas.
yeah, yeah.
And then nitrogen molecules, N2, doesn't get absorbed into wine. So it
So-
doesn't carbonate it.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that.
But we'll see.
So,
So if anybody wants to give us, how much do they need to give us?
25 grand.
25 grand, if somebody just, accidentally writes us a check for 25 grand for
Yeah.
that system, we could get it?
we can
That's right.
provide Petit
Then we
Bleu
can
in
do-
the
we
can.
Then you can get Petit Bleu in the can.
No problem.
Okay, so there we
No
go.
problem.
Easy.
So I shout out to my mother who's joined our live.
Hey,
episode.
Mary.
I don't know
All
that she's
right.
joined before, so glad you
miss you
could be
too.
here. We miss you too. And
You know, I thought we were going to talk about the new white wines.
we are.
Because it's
Yeah.
summertime.
No, this show
and
is
this
about
show is
white
going to be
wine.
about new white wine.
Right.
But
We are
we've been
clearly
going
on
on about
point.
these cans. We're on point. I
Yeah.
mean, mine's almost gone.
I know, this is delicious too. It's really good. I'm really using my best restraint not to drink more of this.
Well,
'Cause I know-
there's the rest of the bottle.
Well, we're sharing this with our live studio audience
I
too,
know.
right?
There's still the
Did
rest
they
of
already
the
get-
bottle.
did they already get
They've
some?
already had some.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm savoring it.
So I don't think we should wait any longer. What I'd like to share is a little backdrop. We have been in pursuit. You have been in pursuit down in the cellar of white wines for a long time. You came up with Lake House White. It used to have a white face, and Lake House White was sort of a extension of white face back in 13 and 14.
And our harvest apple was
And
an early one.
Our Harvest Apple was the
That
first.
was the first.
It was the very
From
first.
Cardigan Mountain.
Yeah.
But with the exception of those three, since the Whiteface turned into Lake House White and the Harvest Apple went away, and I don't know exactly why we decided. There were a few different
I was
reasons.
a little busy.
Yeah, no, but
That's
we've
all.
never gone back to it.
I
And
know.
you- But I think I know why. I mean, the Harvest Apple for me never was. It seemed like a cider that didn't have any bubbles. It always seemed the straight apple wine just seemed like a misplaced product to me. So I haven't been disappointed that we haven't gone back to it. But that left us with one white wine for many years, up until maybe 3 years ago or 4 years ago.
Right.
When was it? When the first time you came out with Meredith Bay? Was that your first white,
Winnie White.
Winnie White?
Winnie White.
And that came out when?
That was 19, I think, 19 or 20.
So it
It's a
took
few years
you.
ago.
It
But it was a
took
very
you
small batch at first.
7 or 8 years to find the right combination of fruit, and that was the biggest challenge, as I understand it. Is
Well,
finding,
there was a lot of experimentation.
Yeah.
There was a lot of experimentation going around with different things, with peaches and nectarines and apricots and tomatoes, plums. I went through 5 or 6 different types of plums until I found Ozark. And then Winnie White was sort of the, I I would take my experiments that were done in small scales, and I would find out if any of them would blend well together, and that became Winnie White. So that was a plum, rhubarb, peach, plum, tomato wine.
Do you have an
and
idea?
Kiwi.
That's what I was
we
gonna
kept
say.
going for quite a while.
Oh, we
Kiwi was
had a
a-
kiwi was a white
Kiwi
wine.
from the
Right.
very
Yeah.
beginning.
Yes.
But kiwi's always been very challenging for
You
me.
sort of gave up
I
on
think I finally
kiwi.
figured it out with Meredith Bay White. I think I finally figured it out. Still has some challenges there.
So, what is it that you think is? I mean, red wines just came easy, seemingly.
No, red wines are even more challenging.
No, but you had a whole stable of red wines before whites.
Well, we were growing rapidly too, so there's just so many containers and so much money to spend on the experimentation and time. A lot of it's time. A lot of it's just bandwidth and storage vessels for products. So, you know, we have got all of this stuff moving simultaneously. We've got red wines, we've got rosé wines, we have white wines, and I'm experimenting in all of those because there's, I don't know. How many
So, what
different
would you
wines.
say? I mean, obviously, time and can cellar space being one of the most important
Yeah.
issues. But would you say there are other issues that prevented you from landing on another white wine sooner than you did?
That was probably the major thing. And plus, I really, really like Lake House White. And so, I spent. Lake House White showed up in 2013, I think, after Whiteface and the separate sort of things. And then I realized that blend of 4 worked. And then it took me another 2, 3 years, 4 years to really bring it in to where I liked that combination. Then it took me another couple more years to figure out how to really work with rose hips. And now I have some new ideas of how to make the Lake House White even better, which is that I'm applying this technique to a bunch of them. I think there's a region in France, Beaujolais, that grows the Gamay grape. And one of the techniques they use on the Gamay grape is they do a carbonic maceration, it's called. And they do this because they want to have an early season fresh Nouveau Beaujolais. So it's in the same year as the harvest they release a wine. So it's a couple months later. And to make it less hidden and closed, so many wines, when you ferment them, it takes 6 months at least for the fruit to start to emerge out from underneath the fermentation process, the alcohol and the rest of it, and the yeast to go away. So they figured out that this carbonic maceration, where you basically take whole clusters of Gamay grapes and you throw them in the vat. And ideally, if you have carbon dioxide, you can introduce carbon dioxide to it. And the clusters sit there, and they don't actually start fermenting because the skin hasn't been broken. And they start changing, they ripen further, but they ripen in the absence of oxygen. And so when you ripen something in oxygen, it tends to rot. There's a bunch of microbes that want to eat stuff up if there's oxygen. There are not very many microbes that do well under CO2. So it gets the fruit to be super ripe. And then they start bursting, or they'll stomp on them. The fermentation takes place. They take it off the skins pretty quickly. And within a couple of months, they have this super jammy, fresh, delightful wine called Nouveau Beaujolais. They also make a Beaujolais in a
Right,
traditional
yeah.
way
Yep.
that you want to wait a couple years before you have it. And it ages nicely, and it's a delicious wine.
2016 Beaujolais.
Do you? Yeah.
I just had it the other day.
Yeah, and it's a delightful grape, a wonderful wine. So back probably 5, 6 years ago now, I had a winemaker who had spent time in Napa and in Australia. And he was saying, Ken, I'm really intrigued by these rose hips. Have you ever tried a carbonic maceration on it? I said, no, but I've always wanted to. I've just never had the bandwidth. Let's do a small batch, see how it goes. So I took a small tub, put the rose hips in there that were ripe, covered them over, flooded it with carbon dioxide, covered it over with plastic, and flooded it with water to sort of keep any oxygen from coming in there. And let it sit there for about 3 or 4 days. Then I removed the water and plastic wrap and started the fermentation. And it was fantastic. I did the rose hip the regular way. So I had the same rose hip, same vintage, and I could compare them side by side. And the one that I did the carbonic on was fantastic. That got blended in with the rest of it, but I knew that's something that's going to work. So 2 years ago, so for the 2022 vintage of Lake House White and ever since, I do a full carbonic maceration on rose hips. So all the rose hips, all that effort that we put into harvesting them, plucking them, freezing them, I do it all in this big tub and flood it and make it go, and it's delightful.
Why is it that the CO2 just sitting on top doesn't prevent oxygen from getting in? Why do you need
Because
the
it's
water?
air moves,
Okay.
pressure changes and air moves, so you
Oh,
want
and
a
it's
water
not
seal.
fermenting, so there's no new CO2.
There's no new CO2 being
produced.
created,
Okay,
so
I got it.
you want to create a water seal,
Yep.
some sort of vapor
Yep.
barrier. It's kind of like people that make kimchi or fermented vegetables at home. You have a crock pot with a lid, and so you push your veggies down in there, you're making sauerkraut, and then you put the lid on it, and there's a water seal. And this is the way Maya makes
Sorry.
kombucha. Kombucha, thank you. Same sort of thing. You want a water seal to hold back the oxygen component. So this year we did a strawberry carbonic maceration, and it's gonna be dynamite. I dedicated 300 pounds of strawberries to this and made the seal, and I started the rest of the strawberries the regular way. This is going to be for our strawberry rhubarb. They'll all get blended in the end, but in the meantime, I've got this separate thing. And it was fascinating. I let them sit for 3.5 or 4 days under CO2 with this seal. We're still not talking about white wine. This is great. And and then I took off the seal, and I plucked out a couple of the strawberries, and they were like jam, like strawberry jam.
Wow.
They were incredibly ripe. Some of them were already tingly, like they were working. There were some
Yep.
microbes that were
Yep.
succeeding and doing their thing in there. So I believe we'll probably just do the whole batch of strawberry rhubarb next year that way. So we'll take our big super tank, we'll flood it with CO2, we'll dump 2,500 pounds of strawberries in there. Won't be able to have a seal, but it's a sealed tank. So out there I can do a CO2 environment,
Right.
and it
won't blow
won't
off.
be disturbed.
Right.
And then we'll initiate the fermentation a few days later. So this year I'm going to do the peaches that way, and I'm going to do the honeyberries that way, and I'm going to do blueberries that way. I'm going to do all of these different fruits.
So you've never
'cause
done blueberries that way?
I haven't even done blueberries that way, or blackberries,
Wow.
or honeyberries. I think this is going to open up a whole new realm of creating, where it's appropriate for the wines, a richer fruit character to the wine.
Wow, that's
So
fantastic.
that's where we are.
That's good. Well, I'm glad I asked these questions, because this
Yeah.
got this a whole new area that I didn't
It's
fully
really,
understand.
there's
so.
like, every time I feel like I'm getting my head around how to make these wines or reproduce these wines, I have new things that come about. Oh, I did kiwi berries that way 2 years ago, which were dynamite. So I do the kiwis that way. That's what went into the Meredith Bay White. Those were carbonic.
Christine asked if bottles last longer than cans,
Yes.
and will honey lavender mead ever end up in a bottle?
Honey lavender cider?
Cider.
I don't know. It's a fresh drinking product. So it just seems the can is the right vessel for it. It's not something to sit on, it's not something to store, it's something to just crack open and drink. Like a lot of beers, like a lot of products. And these rosés, the things that we do put in cans are products that are meant to be consumed right now, go. Some of the other things we make, like Lake House White or Red Scare or Petite Blue, cellar them down, and in that case you want glass. You want glass to store it, cellar it.
Well, there is the exception. We have a bunch of ciders in a specialty cider bottle that are very popular. So there is a possibility from the marketing department stepping in and making a decision.
They don't have,
I hope you're ready to come down there and twist those wires on, because let me tell you how much fun that is, Bob.
Well, I already know. We've been talking about that for a while, actually.
they don't have the ABV to be long-lived, right? I mean, you need like 12% for something to.
No, but they're like, I'm just saying they're just like all the ciders. We have
Yeah.
a bunch of ciders in glass.
Yeah. But it's not about age worthiness so much
No.
as it is just as a vessel.
But those, we could start to fade those out.
because of the manual labor to put those.
And you're gonna balance this,
Yeah.
this push for bottles, push for
Well,
cans.
you should be reminded that when cranberry cider in a can and cranberry cider in a bottle sit side by side
Oh, I know.
on the shelf,
People buy the bottles.
even though the cranberry cider is a significantly lower priced item in the can,
Per volume. Yep.
people still prefer the bottles.
I know.
There's
you
an
were right.
advantage to bottles.
You're right, Mr. Marketing. You are correct. Absolutely.
Just saying.
Just saying.
I mean, we want to be here for our customers. That's
I know, and you want to be there to twist on those wires. I love it. You heard it here.
Yeah, okay.
It's been
I see
recorded.
Bob down there now. It's gonna be your new workout routine.
I'm just going to buy a machine.
Okay.
Do they make those? They must.
So what
I
we,
know, I know.
Or
We
champagne, they
talk
must.
about it. You
So
just-
this is all gone, is it?
Yeah.
Is it, Chuck? Okay.
yeah, so what,
Mine's all
so,
gone too.
So we should talk about the wines that we
Yeah.
That we came here to talk about?
That we came here
so
to talk about.
this one is mind-blowing. And it has history too.
This is really.
Way back in the beginning of time, Bob went hiking on the Appalachian
Is there a
Trail.
live audience
I
to you
remember
anymore?
that. They did. Some more?
So Ken and I were milling around the original wine cellar, and Bob's trees were full of apples, and they're just whatever kind of apple trees, nobody uncategorized. And
I can still see those trees.
yeah,
Right there at the
so
end,
we,
right?
we got the
Just north of that.
tractor out, we forklifted ourselves up and,
Yeah.
and picked just, well, I don't know, a couple 5-gallon buckets or whatever. And so what are we gonna do with this? Well, I don't know, just ferment it. And somehow we had pears too, from your tree?
I don't think we had pears in that. I think the estate apple was
Was
just apple.
Oh, it was just apple.
Two or
That
three
was
different
it.
types of apples
'Cause we
from his
did
tree.
a pear apple in there somewhere too.
I did make a pear apple before.
Yeah.
We had
This
a
is a
pear
pear
apple.
apple. You
We had-
just mentioned
this-
the actual wine. You heard it here first from
Yeah.
Chuck. We've been hiding it from you, but this is actually the 2023 vintage pear apple wine.
Yeah.
And this is the second time you've released a pear apple in the winery.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, early
believe
on.
so.
you
Early
guys-
on, I
Early
had a pear
yeah.
apple.
It was somewhere around that same, the estate apple and pear apple were, I don't know, did you use dehydrated pears from your house? I can't remember now.
We took pears from my house.
It was pears from your
Yeah,
house. I think
pear
we
apple.
did them both.
Yeah.
And some of it was
So-
Bob's.
This blows my mind because it has this steely, minerally, slaty, like Sancerre sort of character to it.
Yeah.
It has a unique character, and this came about basically the same way that the original pear apple came about. Last year we had a funky year because we had a frost that wiped out so many things, and my pear trees lost everything, my peach trees lost everything, but a couple of my apple trees still had apples. Same with Chuck Souther down at Apple Hill. He had apples at his farm, but his apples, he said, Ken, I don't know what's going on, but I have a lot of apples, but they're smaller. And I said, I have the same thing. My Cortland out in my backyard normally has good-sized Cortland apples. And last year, I had a whole bunch of small Cortland apples, hundreds, thousands of them maybe. And it's right by the house, and they just started falling when they're ripe. And they're a mess. I mean, just thick. I'd drive a lawnmower over it, just. I'd talk about little tiny baby heads just rocking over the thing, smushing them, and I'm like, Jesus, I can't waste these apples. I'm throwing them in buckets and throwing them on our compost to get them off the lawn. And finally, like, oh, I got to make wine out of these things. And so I filled 6 or 8 5-gallon buckets with apples off my tree, off the ground, cleaned them, made sure they were fresh. And a nearby neighbor, enthusiast of the winery, had a pear tree that actually produced some pears, and she'd given me some pears. Came in with a couple bushels of pears, said, here, you want these? I was like, sure. So I took the apples from my backyard and took the pears that were there and let them ripen and chopped them up and
This
made
is
wine
it.
out of them, and this is it.
So
And
this
there's
is a steak,
so this is all
Hale
the-
Road.
This is Hale
Hale
Road.
Road, yeah.
The pears aren't from there, but the apples are, and it's primarily the apples. It was probably 10 to 1.
Where was the
apples to
pear tree?
pears.
Was there from their property in Maine? I thought it was from a neighbor on Hale Road.
I don't know where I got. I don't
The
remember.
pears. You said your neighbor came
Neighbor,
over with
yeah.
2.
Well, no, neighbor of the winery.
Oh,
They're somewhere in Meredith.
Oh, in Meredith.
She lives somewhere in Meredith, in town or nearby.
Oh, okay.
So this is it, and we just made the wine and
What-
fermented it. And
What percentage is pear and what
Oh,
percentage?
it's like 10 to 1 or something.
10 apple, 1 pear.
10 to 1 pear.
So it's Cortland and some sort of pear.
Some sort of pear.
Yeah. It is crazy good
It's very light, it's very crisp.
and
Yeah.
steely.
And
It's almost,
clean.
it has that.
No back sweetening. It's zero. It's dry, completely dry.
So another thing that I remember about early days of apple making is there was an off nose that never
Dirty
Yeah,
socks.
dirty socks.
Dirty socks.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what we called
That-
it for whatever reason.
Yeah, that apple
And it
cider.
smelled like dirty socks.
That's what it smelled like. This doesn't have any of that.
No, it didn't ever, even from early on. Some of the wines that I make have weird aromas early on or weird flavors early on. That used to really worry me early on because I didn't know where it was going or what was going to happen. Now I don't care at all. It's like pimples on a teenager. It doesn't matter. It's going to be fine.
What do you think the ABV came out?
It's 11.6.
11.6.
We actually
You
have
actually- you
a
actually-
you build beer.
Yeah, I
so
know,
we
but you,
can take
you,
care
you,
of that.
you you use a lot of
11.6.
wine to use that, right? The ability.
No, not too much. 50 mils.
So I'm concerned then that this is yet another product we're going to talk about here on the show that we only have a few bottles of.
This one?
How many?
Yeah, we have 15 cases, maybe 12 now or 10. It's been out for a month or
So-
a few weeks.
So
It's going
once
fast.
again,
I took
if
a
you
case
want to
home.
try
I-
this
I
home,
wanted to drink this.
Yeah, no, this is great. I'm blown
Truth
away.
be known.
I would
I
almost.
do it all for you folks, except sometimes.
I think you could actually
well, when the
fool me.
winemaker can't drink his own wine, you
I
got a
brought a bottle
serious
over to your
problem.
house for dinner the other night, but we never had it. We had martinis and stuff.
Yeah, and it
so
wasn't
that's in your
labeled,
fridge.
so
There's no
I'm
label on it
glad
because
you-
we ran out of labels.
That's the marketing department, probably.
No, that was mine. That was production. That was production. I ordered up how many labels, thinking I was off by 6, so I ended up with 6 bottles without labels.
Christine's not helping the marketing department either. She's promoting me to do the twisting.
Good for you.
Cheers.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Christine.
So you could fool me with this wine.
As a grape wine.
Yep.
That's-
You could completely fool me. I would.
What would you say it was stylistically?
I think Sansera
reminiscent
was right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say Sansera. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's light, but it's
It's not a
steely
poulet
and warm.
fumet. That's more smoky, sort of character of Sauv Blanc.
Yeah.
That character.
Sancerre originates where? Where you?
It's
Upper Rhone.
yeah, upper
It's a Rhone.
Not
Okay.
Rhone. What's the other river? The
The
Bordeaux.
no.
north of Bordeaux.
Yeah, it's north.
I want to say, is it Rhine? Rhine?
It could be the Rhine.
I think it's
So German?
No, Rhine's German. No, Rhine's
The
German.
Rhine's German.
What's the? Somebody Google it. What's the river?
Yes, the main river. The Seine.
Loire.
Loire.
That's what it is.
In the Loire.
Ah,
Thank you,
the Loire Valley.
Loire Valley. Remember we met those people from the Loire Valley in the gondola going up?
Oh,
at-
yes, yes.
La Plagne.
Yeah. They were asking us
And,
why
and
we
they
were
were
skiing in
and they
Colorado.
were wanting to go to United States because
Yeah.
the Loire is it's just their backyard and they're kind of tired of it. They
Yeah.
wanted to go to Colorado.
Well, it was
and-
the same. It was the grass is greener on the other side.
Yeah.
They were moaning about all the things French, and we were like, "Oh, it's so great to be in France," and they're like, "Oh no, we should be in the U.S. That's the best place to be."
It was hilarious. That was great. So that's
So that's the
apple.
pear apple.
Isn't that nice?
That's
I'm really pleased with this wine. It's been great. I almost, just broke something about 3 months ago because I came in. It was in just a little 200-liter can and the lid's floating loose.
Oh no.
And I'm like, ugh. But it was fine.
That would be one of those texts we would have gotten.
Oh, I gotta throw it all away.
going to an end.
Now, between the next two, I really don't know which one to drink next. But I think I'm going to go with Moody Mountain.
So Greg,
No, I think I'm going to switch to the
Greg Farley's
American
on, and he just posted
Chuck
that
just saw
yeah,
in
Greg,
LA.
Greg was playing a drinking game, and every time you said carbonic maceration, he had to take a drink.
Did you just say it again? Did you say
Carbonic?
carbonic maceration?
Yes, I
Carbonic
did.
maceration? Did he say
Carbonic.
So
carbonic?
Greg doesn't feel he's going to make the end of the show.
Carbonic.
It's not going to
And not if
survive.
we keep saying carbonic. If we keep saying carbonic, he's never going to make it to the end of the carbonic
We wouldn't
show.
want. We wouldn't want to overdo it.
We wouldn't want to do that
reminds me-
carbonic thing.
Yeah. It reminds me of playing high bob in college. Did anybody play high bob?
No.
Watch the Bob Newhart show?
Why would I have
And
played-
everybody usually walks in and says, "Hi, Bob," and then you had to have a shot.
have a drink? I have heard of that actually.
It's really fun by the end of the show.
I'm in a book with Bob Newhart,
you're in a book with Bob Newhart?
Yeah, Bob Newhart and I are in. We share the same book. We're both in a book called the Bob Book.
Oh, you're in the book of Bob?
I'm in the book of Bob.
Book of Bob.
Yeah, so
I
that would be
hope.
like.
Did you write the Book of Bob?
No.
If you're playing
Did
High
Across
Bob,
America.
Bob counts too, so you have to have a shot. So,
Yeah, so hi,
every
Bob.
time we say Bob, Bob and carbonic maceration are the buzzwords today.
So
Thanks, Greg.
we're going on to which one is this?
This is the Meredith Bay White.
Meredith Bay White. Okay, because I was going to say Karen is drinking Moody Mountain right now.
I know. I was back and forth. So we're going to go to Moody Mountain.
We'll go to Moody Mountain next.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, Karen.
So what grape is in this?
You got ahead
No
of us.
grapes again.
Okay, so this is
It actually
this
smells
is
like Moody Mountain to me.
this is which Meredith Bay?
Wow, I got to get another glass. Mind if I borrow one of yours?
What
I'll
happened?
walk that far.
What did you do?
I just got to try them side by side.
Is this Meredith?
Okay, good. Fine. Just want to check. Sorry.
This is
Carry on. This is carbonic.
carbonic.
No. This is Meredith Bay White.
We should have a wine named Carbonic.
We could.
Carbonic maceration.
Carbonic Farley.
It's Farley carbonic.
Farley Carbonic. He's not going to make it.
Great alive. He's already down. He can't even hear all the carbonics going on anymore.
Kill him. This is so great. Our friend
All the way,
says,
all the way
friend
across the
says
United
he's
States. Greg is sitting
hardly
in
going to
LA.
make it through the show. So what do? We try and kill him.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So that's kind of nice people we are. So yeah, this is.
So tell us, what about this? This is the second time you've released this.
This is. the
Has
second
it
time we released
changed, or is it the very same
Well,
recipe?
the biggest change with this one is the kiwi berries. I had to drive all the way out to Rochester, New York to get them.
I remember when you did that.
And the person I met there had driven all the way from
Yeah.
wherever, even further east, had come over. We met part way. Because all of the kiwi berries in New Hampshire were wiped out by the
May
frost.
18th.
So that's what wiped them all out. So they are a sweet Anne variety of kiwi, but they're grown in a different area and they have a different, slightly different character.
Because this does taste more kiwi than the other one. than
Yeah,
the
and
last
that,
one.
you know, last one, the previous one, it was about a 50-50 ratio, and this one's about 40-60% peach, because the kiwis were stronger.
And they still
And I was
are.
trying to reach a balance, because kiwi on its own is a really strong character, really strong flavor, and I've been working for a long time to try to get that balance. So this is a peach rhubarb wine that's blended with a kiwi wine.
I'm sorry. I gotta interrupt you. Greg Farley
Oh, this
says.
is a fun. This
Greg
is a
Carley says he's crawling around. Please make it stop. So I just couldn't help it. We're losing our audience here, and I had to wonder why.
I'm gonna start crawling around laughing.
Sorry, Greg.
Christine's on your side, Greg. Anyway, sorry to interrupt, Ken. You should continue.
So, you know, we had Iago Hale here. He's the director of the experimental growing division at UNH. He's working hard trying to study different varietals of kiwi berries at his growing center as a cash crop for the stony, difficult environment that we live in here in New Hampshire. And so I go to his place and pick up kiwi berries there in the fall. This year, he and Ben and I are gonna go into an experimental thing on varieties of different kiwis.
Oh, good brothers.
So this will move us towards a particular variety or combinations of varieties of kiwi berries that should be able to make a better Meredith Bay White. Every one of these things I'm never satisfied with, because I like the process of trying to make them better, trying to explore. That's part of the fun.
Well,
for
and
me.
they keep getting better, so
It's
go.
really.
Go.
So what's fascinating too is that with wine, it's continually changing. And so when you decide, okay, it's starting to slow down in its rate of change, and it's pretty much what it's going to be, let's bottle it. And then it goes in the bottle, and out it goes. The wine continues to change in the bottle. So this is aromatically, flavor-wise different than what it was when it went into the bottle a month ago.
Yeah, wow.
And it will continue to change over like a
It'll
couple months.
continue to evolve. Well, as we always talk about, the wines continue to get better until they don't anymore. And then they'll be there for a while, and then eventually they start to go down the other side and they get less interesting, but still drinkable for some period of time, and eventually they go to a point where they're not enjoyable anymore.
What I like about this is it's a bold, bright, grape-like wine, like a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc or something like that. But it's got its own character for sure. There are some notes and flavors. There's almost like a smoky, earthy character that's hard to describe.
There's
I
a
sort
comes
of
up.
feel that that's the peach rhubarb side of it in there. It's
Oh.
bringing that sort of maybe that mouthfeel and softness, and it offsets the inherent bitterness that always seems to come out in kiwi, and that little bit of just a tad bit of bitter is absolutely balanced with that soft mouthfeel of the peach. Is what I really think.
There's a lot of acid bite to the kiwi.
It's
berries.
acid, yeah. So it's a
an
good mouth
acid
cleansing
bite
kind of
that
yeah.
breaks through. This
Yeah.
did get a small touch of sugar back sweetening to it before we bottled it.
Yeah.
Without it, it was just too austere. Both Ben and I really enjoyed it, but it was probably too much on the intense side for most people. So this just brought it to a place where it was
A little soft.
a little rounder, a little
Rounder.
softer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
still has
But-
that cleansing
no,
sort
it
of
does,
bite on the
yeah.
back end.
Right. No, it's
You know what
incredible.
this reminds me of, and I'll never be able to pull the name out, and I believe, and I'm not 100% sure of this, but I believe it was a wine we tried in South Africa, and not the Riesling,
Not a Chenin Blanc?
not a Chenin Blanc. I don't think a Chenin Blanc, but I remember there's something very distinct about this that
Yeah.
brings my
So
head
it could have
back to
been,
South
it could have been, what's his name's, Semillon. So he did a
Oh,
whole
yeah.
skin maceration Semillon,
Yeah.
which was really fantastic, which is a Bordeaux grape.
it's
You know,
Stony-
that's the white Bordeaux grape.
Yeah.
Stony
he
Brook
did-
or Stony
It was at Stony
Stony
Brook.
Brook.
Craig.
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 Yeah, Craig. Yeah.
So Craig and he and I spoke quite a bit about long maceration times, which was fun.
Yeah.
And I came back and I did a 28-day maceration of blueberries, and he, because I had tried a longer one, but after 20 days, after a wine finishes fermenting, it loses its protection of the CO2 from the transformation that's going on, and then stuff wants to grow on it. It starts to get nasty. And what he had done, because I asked him, I said, so how do you, he was going out 30 or 40 days in maceration. I'm like, how do you do that without it going bad on you? He said, well, I drop the lid right on it and seal it off.
Yeah.
I was like, of course, okay. You don't have to worry about releasing pressure or the rest of it because it's done. So I let my blueberries macerate and ferment, and once they slowed down, then I dropped the lid on it. And then I could go out further. That went into the 2020 Petit Blue Reserve.
And what did you find?
It was a small amount.
How did it affect that batch?
It made it much grippier. It made it bigger.
Really drew more out of the skins.
It drew more out of the skin. So
Yeah.
you get really big, grippy tannins. Makes it more, like a guest earlier was like, I've had fruit wines before, but this tastes like wine. She was drinking Petit Blue Reserve. I don't think she'd been here before. And she's like, how does this happen? How do you take fruit and make something that tastes like grape wine?
She'd been here before. She's
Oh,
been
she has been
drinking
here
our
before?
wine for years.
Oh, okay.
But she thought it was
I'd
made
never
out of
met her
grapes.
before.
But she thought it was made out of grapes.
She lives in Connecticut. She comes up in the summer. So
Okay.
But whenever she comes up, she said she
Oh,
makes
great.
sure to bring some home.
Great.
And Petit Blue Reserve is one of their favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great one.
That and the rosé.
This has a little bit of toasted marshmallow.
That's great.
kiwi.
That's right on. That's a great
That's
one.
the kiwi berry.
Kiwi's got these
There
really
is sometimes when it's so intense toasted marshmallow,
Yeah.
you feel like you're out
Yeah.
there roasting them.
Yeah, Yeah, it's nice. It's subtle, but it's really.
There is,
really
I
cool.
can't describe, but there's toasted marshmallow in there for sure.
Yeah, yeah. It's,
Remember that kiwi batch that gave you this strange feeling in your mouth?
On your gums.
Yeah.
Your gums would almost itch,
yeah.
tingle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
That was
right,
the
yeah.
straight kiwi. That's
Yeah.
back when I first made kiwi wine. It would be like 95% kiwi and 5% peach or apple. I did apple. I used apple. 95% kiwi, 5% apple seemed to be a nice blend. But it was always just too intense.
Yeah, it was too
It was
intense.
too intense. It wasn't drinkable. I'd get tired of it. Now
Yeah.
with this, with Meredith Bay White, I kill a bottle before dinner starts. It's just
Yeah,
drinkable.
it's very drinkable.
And it's more along the lines of drinkable.
There's something else in it too, right? It's kiwis, just peaches and kiwis.
Kiwi, peaches, and a little rhubarb.
A little rhubarb. That's what I thought.
I actually
Why did you
make
choose
a-
rhubarb? Why the little rhubarb? Just
because I make a big batch of peach rhubarb that I use in
Oh,
Lake House
okay.
White,
So
Meredith Bay White, Winnie White, and a whole bunch of stuff.
so this lends itself.
It's an efficiency
Yep.
approach because I can't make all these in a.
So I'm reading here. Greg
Barrel.
wants to know if you used any carbonic
He could still talk.
maceration.
He could still type. No, we haven't said carbonic enough. He even wrote carbonic.
I sorry. So
I
no,
don't think
sorry.
carbonic's happened enough
There's
yet.
none of that.
That must have been somebody
Greg,
else. That
this
wrote
this
that.
this batch of Meredith Bay White, carbonic on the kiwis, carbonic maceration on the
Oh, there
kiwis.
is?
The whole the whole batch of kiwis
yeah,
went
so I
carbonic.
knew
And
there was
that's, I
something in there
think,
for you.
That's what I think is bringing out the aromatic
So-
part of it more.
So Ken, carbonic maceration. What is the next wine that you're going to
Do carbonic on
be
it?
sharing with us? Carbonic maceration.
The peach rhubarb. So this year I'm going to do the peach rhubarb carbonic in the big tank. I'm going to just go all in.
I
All
think
in.
we've
I think you
lost.
should.
I
We've
think
lost
I
Greg.
might do part of it.
He's
He's out.
he's out. He's completely done.
dot.
Oh, sorry, Greg.
So we have 6 minutes to finish the next bottle.
Jesus.
We'll be with you in a minute, Greg.
This is the most interesting, in my opinion, of all of them, because it's a crazy wine. You drop it so you get more. Is that it? I got one.
It's a magic technique.
This is Moody Mountain.
Moody Mountain.
Never created before. No carbonic in this one.
No, did you just say there's no carbonic maceration in this one?
Yeah, but no carbonic maceration isn't the same as
Just opened
carbonic.
up a possibility. This is primarily tomato.
You can
Primarily?
get that out of here.
Primarily
No
tomato.
way. There's no way.
It's like 90% tomato, 80+% tomato.
Get out of town.
Isn't that crazy?
And was the tomato carbonically macerated?
It was not yet, but while we were talking about carbonic here, I'm thinking the
That
tomatoes
might
got to
be
go
a good
carbonic. But this, so what happened was, I have a farmer down here.
Oh, we're going downhill fast. That's what alcohol does to you every time. It's sort of
Not as
inevitable.
fast as Greg.
What happened?
Not as fast as Greg.
So I had committed to this farmer to pick
Wow.
these tomatoes, and I figured out a few years ago that if you take a tomato just before it turns red, so it's grown, the acid starts to drop, you could probably eat it like this, but it's not red yet, and it's not going to be sweet as a full ripe red tomato. It also doesn't have that big tomato aroma, because I don't want tomato aroma in wine. That should be for a Bloody Mary. And so I figured out that I asked him to pick the tomatoes just as they get up. Maybe there's a little blush of color, but before that, he picks them, chops them, freezes them. And so I committed to that, and I bought them from him because I didn't. He makes sure that what he grows, he sells, and so I bought them from him. So I made this tomato wine. This was going to be used with Winnie White if I got Ozark plums, but Ozark plums were done. There were zero last year.
Yeah.
So this is primarily tomato. 3 years ago or 2 years ago, I had made a small batch of apricot wine that tasted like Indian spice.
Oh,
It was the
no kidding.
craziest thing I ever made. I think we did it up at the bar there once with Marika years ago. I brought
Yes,
up little
yes, I
samples,
remember
and
that.
it was the strangest thing. I didn't know what to do with it, so it's been sitting in a carboy downstairs. And then this year, because we lost so many fruits, the plums, the peaches, the nectarines, we reached out to a farm and got cantaloupes. And Ben and I did 2 different approaches of fermenting cantaloupes because melons are supposed to be difficult to make wine out of. They start off fine and then they turn into brown gush. They just rot. And we did 2 different trials, and one of them turned out terrible and went down the drain. That's the way it goes. One of them worked out great, and that's in here as well. So it's apricot, the weird apricot thing, the tomato, big batch of tomato, and a cantaloupe rhubarb ferment.
And we owe this wine to Ben. Is that right?
Well, Ben came up with once he and I did all the bench trials, and we figured out which amounts of what we were going to put in it.
Okay.
And I had set that up. We were away somewhere, and it was on the schedule to get blended. And so once you blend a couple of wines, the software that we use to track it, you need to come up with a name just as a placeholder. And I came back, and he had put this MMW. And I'm like, what's that? He says, well, it's just a placeholder. You can change it if you like. I just called it Moody Mountain White. And I said, so what's Moody Mountain White all about? He says, oh, that's where Becky and I got married. It's a mountain over near the Ossipes on the north side of Lake Winnipesaukee. I said, that's great. Let's call it Moody Mountain White. And he thought that was great. So it's Moody Mountain White.
Wow.
That's the story
Nicely
behind
done,
it.
Ben.
Nicely done,
Yeah. Nice name. Marketing department department approves. And
So it's
the
got this
wine is
unique sort of
outstanding.
And there's a story in every bottle.
And there's a story in every
There's
bottle.
definitely a story in every bottle.
Yeah.
If I think tomato, I can find tomato. If I don't think tomato, I don't think I can find tomato.
I'm tomatoless. Yeah, I got no tomato. It's just deliciousness. What I get in this is just really nice.
The
drinking-
apricot is a really tiny bit of this, but
No,
it
you get
shines
the,
through.
yeah,
for
you
me.
get the apricot for sure.
It's
yeah.
this wild stuff,
Yeah.
and it was because that year at Brookdale Farm down in Hollis, southern part of New Hampshire, the apricots didn't grow big and plump. It was a drought sort of year. I think it was 21 or 20, and so it was a lot of pit and a lot of skin, which made for really intense wine,
Yeah.
which was great.
Indian spices though.
But that's what I get. It's like a
cumin.
curry, like a
Yeah.
turmeric,
Or turmeric. Yeah.
turmeric sort of character to it.
So, this is truly amazing to me because we went with one white wine for 10 years, and now we have 3, and not just 3, but 3 outstanding white wines.
I really like
and actually we have
And
4
Ozark. I mean, we
because
really
you have
need Ozark right here.
which we're out of.
I was trying to reach Maddie this afternoon down at Brookdale. That's
You're
where I
trying to
got
get some more Ozark. Do you think we'll get some more this year?
Hope so. Fingers crossed.
You never know. It's Mother Nature has
Mother
a
Nature.
say. So
If not, we'll get
so
more cantaloupes
we
or
actually
something else.
will at this point have 5 white wines. But of course, your pear apple is going to be gone in a few weeks and or months, and then
And quite
May not
frankly,
come
it
back.
does get down to how many containers
right.
and time.
Yep. Sure.
So things will come and go. And right now, this is what we have for our white offerings, and, as well as Lake House White. So we have 4 whites. And I'm sure the pear apple in Moody Mountain, there's 15 cases of pear apple and 16 and a half cases of Moody Mountain White. And I think Ben may have taken some of those. And then the biggest one is Meredith Bay White, which is one that we purposely made in a volume that we would typically sell in the summer.
Okay.
So that's,
But the pear apple and the Moody Mountain will not be on the tasting sheet. So
No.
if you will really need to know about them if you decide to purchase them. So they will last a little while in the tasting room.
and I think, you know, a number of people who come in that know our wines, who've had our wines and understand the style of them, usually don't hesitate to try something new because they knew it's going to be along this style.
So Karen says she doesn't taste tomato. She tastes cantaloupe today. I don't taste cantaloupe
I don't
or
taste-
tomato myself. There's just comes together to be something all in of itself.
that's
I
what
can't
was fun.
believe there's so much tomato in this.
Ben and I spent, I don't know how many trials going around different amounts, different things, pushing it one way, pushing it another. And in the end, this came together nicely.
Because I remember actually during those trials, and Ben brought some up to
Straight
try,
tomato or whatever.
and I wasn't a fan. And I was not sure
that I was going to be able to be happy with it. But then the other day, actually, I didn't taste it after you bottled it. And at the tasting room, it was on the tasting bar. And I said, I haven't even tasted this since it was bottled. And I was shocked. It was delicious. And I just noticed as it's warming up, I'm getting tomato.
You getting the tomato now?
Oh, it's a temperature thing.
As it's warming up, I'm getting some of that tomato. Just a hint.
It's changed a lot since we first did the trials, first put it together and bottled it. And this got bottled while we were away.
Yeah, no. That's
So
what you said.
we were on our,
We were down in Pennsylvania somewhere.
we were down in Pennsylvania, and Ben finalized the blends, filtered, and bottled all 3 of these whites.
Yeah, Ben's come a long way down there in the
Yeah,
south.
well,
Oh,
way to go, Ben.
he's rocking.
So we are at the end of our hour. I wanted to share a couple things. First of all, it is 4th of July week. We have some fun things coming up this week. We have Katie Dobbins, our traditional
Oh, is she gonna play in the garden?
show in the garden. She's been playing in the garden since long before we were here. Her dad used to
the building,
set up a show every 4th of July. So she's played probably for 10 years across the street. She'll be there again if it rains. I don't know what the weather is, but if it rains, she's going to play in the loft.
Perfect.
So rain or shine, come see Katie Dobbins from 3 to 6 on Thursday. And on Friday, we have our brand new show. It's going to be a first Friday of every month for the rest of this year called the KR Collective. It's going to be, it's a
Randy,
variation of what was once 7 Odd 7.
7 on 7.
If you're familiar with 7 Odd 7, it was an
Unbelievable.
unbelievable jazz,
Dave
That's so
Kubrinsky,
great.
it's like
Randy
an
Rhoads.
avant-garde
Kubrinsky.
jazz
Yeah.
collection with
Kubrinsky's just, they're all just magical.
I'm so excited for the show. It's Friday night. The show is free. Come and get tickets. There's no cost. You just sign up on
On Eventbrite?
Eventbrite.
Through our website?
Yep, through our website. Free tickets. We are paying the band through your donations. So if you're inspired, either before you see the show to make a donation, that'd be great. If you want to come see the show and see if it inspires you and make a donation based on your inspiration, that's fine too. There'll be opportunities to donate during the show. But either way, come see the show, whether you want to donate or not. It'll be a fantastic experience.
it's
There's
great.
still a few seats left, so don't waste your time. Get the tickets. It's Friday at 6. And
Friday at 6.
Friday at 6.
Right
the
here.
show actually
Right here.
starts right here in the loft. And then
On
Saturday,
all the seats.
we have music in the garden again on Saturday from 3 to 6. And again, if it rains, we'll bring that into the loft. And then
Piano at 6.
piano at 6. So lots of live music
Lots of
happening
music
at
this
the
week.
winery this week.
Great.
And Meredith has put on they've got Atlas back this year, so there's going
They
to be a
do?
big
'Cause
fireworks show
last year was-
down at the bay at 9 o'clock. So you can come and get entertained and have lunch or dinner here, and then head down to Route 3, just down the block.
Yeah, it's
and,
1 block away.
Watch the fireworks show. And that's enough about what's coming up. I will say there's some great music happening in the next month here. So if you want to come see one of our Thursday shows, check out the music page on our website. There's some great shows.
Would those be carbonic events?
Carbonic maceration.
Yeah.
They don't do carbonic on music that I
No?
know of, but
Well,
we
that's
could.
untapped
I'll check with
opportunities.
Dave, see if he does
You
it.
know, I'm gonna
Maybe Greg
suggest-
knows about carbonic music.
I'm going to suggest a topic for next Monday's show would be in memory of Greg.
Greg?
The full
Because-
exploration
in
of.
memory
Because he
of
won't
Greg
be alive anymore.
and his
It'll be a
liver.
memorial.
Or his liver.
Memorial for Greg.
So, speaking of next week, it is very likely that we will go live briefly. We will be
we'll be on the road.
we will be in Umbagog
north.
next week on Monday, and that is Chuck's family camp. And we have gone live from there before. It was
Yeah, we
pretty
might be able to go
sketchy.
live.
It's
Yeah, there is
pretty sketchy.
LTE there.
Yeah, so we'll say hello nonetheless. We probably won't have a full show next week, but we'll tune in around 5:30 or thereabouts to say hello. And then coming up, we have some shows we want to bring. Josiah, I don't know if you've been into the winery in the last few years, but Josiah's behind the tasting bar, just killing it. He's just a real champion of ours, and we love him. And we want to have him on the show, talk about his future. And then we have Bob Cochran, our new tasting room manager, who has not been on the show, and we're going to twist his arm, get him to come on,
He's
join
super
us.
guy.
So in the next couple, he's super. Yeah, I can't wait to have him here talk about his past. So some of the hints on what's coming up. If you have some ideas for a show, let us know. We're always happy to explore them. And otherwise, until next week, we'll see you then. Have a great week. Have a great 4th, and hopefully we see you.
everybody.
Cheers to empty.
Empty
a little
glasses.
bit there, yeah.